Welcome to Behind the Muscle podcast. Today's guest is an IFBB Pro Classic Physique athlete. Today's guest is Dion Merrill. Dion, welcome to the podcast.
Say thank you, Quentin. Thank you so much for having me on, man. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, for sure, dude. So you're pretty fresh in terms of that IFBB Pro card. So it's going to be kind of exciting and fun for us to talk about, just here a couple of weeks ago when you got that pro card. But before we kind of get into all that bodybuilding talk and kind of get into the nitty gritty, I want to ask you a couple of questions I like to ask all my guests just to kind of start off our conversation. So the first question, Dion, that I have for you is, who are a few of your favorite bodybuilders of all time?
Oh, man. Right away, the name that pops up to me is Flex Wheeler. Yeah, he is, I don't know, it's just the epitome of just like a perfect physique. I love that nickname, like the Sultan of Symmetry, like all that. I think it's fantastic. And it's honestly a physique that I always keep in mind, when I'm trying to, for things that I aspire for, to achieve for my physique. Not to give any disrespect to any of the greats like Ronnie and Lee and Arnold and Phil and all those guys that won all those multiple Olympias and Dorian. But just like what resonates really with me is when I look at that 1993, like Flex Wheeler, it's like unbelievable to me, But then even more recently, guys that have really inspired me to get into bodybuilding have been some of honestly the classic physique guys when stuff was starting out, because that's really what piqued my interest. So Breon Ainsley, honestly, is like a huge inspiration for me. I just love the way he conducts himself on stage, and I got to meet him a couple times, just like when he's come to guest pose for like the Pittsburgh Pro and stuff like that. And he just seems like a really cool guy,
Yeah, for sure. I actually subscribed to Breon's YouTube channel, and he's got a great personality. You can tell he knows how to be professional. He knows how to work. He knows how to make that money. But I think he seems like he's a pretty down to earth, genuine guy. So I like him too. He seems like a good one. So tell us, Dion, at what age did you start lifting weights, and then why did you kind of start lifting weights at that age?
Oh man. Honestly, I started with back in 7th grade. We had this bigger, faster, stronger club for some of the athletes and stuff like that. So that was when I started. I was about 12, 13 years old, something like that, around that time. But that was really just learning the fundamentals of benching, squatting, cleans, deadlifts, stuff like that. So it was really more like compound stuff and just kind of learning those fundamentals and just being able to take that forward. And so it was a lot of fun. I remember I remember just some of those early days, the first time you get up 135 and stuff like that. It's just it's a great nostalgic feeling,
For sure.
But back then it was purely for athletics. I was a 3-sport athlete for all throughout high school and everything like that. So back then it was just for football and basketball. And then in high school, I picked up track and field as well.
Very cool. Yeah, I'm very familiar with BFS. That's actually the program that we had in our high school. So yeah, it was squat, bench, hex bar, deadlift, power cleans, all the good stuff, right? So let's transition into your backstory then a little bit. Dion, why don't you tell us where you grew up? I want you to talk about sports, how that really influenced and impacted your earlier years. Talk about any adults or any coaches, teachers, parents that had a big impact or influence in your life. Just paint that picture for us of that childhood, those younger years up to about high school, and then we'll move on from there.
Oh yeah, no. So honestly, I grew up originally in Buffalo, New York. Was just growing up there. And for the most part, I started playing sports and everything back when I was maybe 9. I got into Little League football and stuff like that, because when I was growing up, right now, it's kind of hard to see on social media and stuff like that, my height and everything like that. But I'm 6'3", and like I've always been one of like the biggest people around. So like I'm 9 years old playing little league football with like 12, 13-year-olds, just getting smacked around for the first couple of years. So it was so I started there just because like my parents were like, he's like growing like a weed, we have to get him into something. So so I started there, and that was a ton of fun. And really, once I got into middle school and I started to do like the bigger, faster, stronger stuff and started to learn my body a little bit more, that's where I actually started to like come into my own and, actually become a little bit more of an athlete, so, so it was good. But really like growing up, it was a lot of like, really like my mom and my grandparents and everything like that. Like they did so much to be able to support me and everything like that. It's just, it's been a lot, and I love and cherish all of them so much. But then, going up into middle school, it was football, basketball, just kind of trying to get into those stuff. Actually, it was pretty funny to me at the time, just because one of my little league coaches had actually moved up to the modified team, and he had saw me like after my next growth spurt, and he sees me at practice and he goes, "Hell, is that you, Dion?" Like, so it was just like this shift of mindset. He's like, from this little kid that he's got seen used to just like trying to make his way through drills to kind of leading the pack along the way. But it was amazing. Like big influences, I guess, in my life was a lot of my coaches. Really, like a lot of those men growing up were so pivotal to me, along with honestly, like my grandfather. I see my grandfather as like my biggest role model. And then, Coach Aquino, Coach Martin, Coach Danheiser, all these guys going up through like middle school. They were tremendous men, and they taught me a lot of lessons. And then even, getting into high school, just with some of my offensive line coaches, because I was actually a bigger guy. Like when I was always like offensive lineman, defensive lineman, everything like that. So when I got into high school, Coach Oz, and everything, my offensive line coach and my head coach there, they were tremendous as well. And just being able to kind of teach me a lot of those early lessons as a man growing up and as a young kid growing up, to just try to live the right way and kind of have a good compass for what you want to do and where you're trying to go.
So talk to me a little bit more about your grandpa. You said that he was probably your biggest influence growing up. How did he influence you? What did he kind of teach you or help you kind of grasp or understand as a young kid?
My grandfather, excuse me, like, because he passed away this past year, so just excuse me at all, like, but my grandfather, he was absolute patriarch of our family. He did everything, for us. He kind of started our grounds up here, because my family is originally from down south in Mississippi. There's actually a Merrill Road in Laurel, Mississippi, where our family started. So, so he made the jump up north, and he started everything up here. He was in the military, and he worked at the VA for 30 something years. And then after that, he started his own business in blood transfusion, and really kind of took over the whole Western New York sector with that. And he was able to do a tremendous amount of stuff. He even was able to help in the development of the pacemaker when it was coming out, so he was a stud. Like, so, and like the biggest things that I took away is that during the summers when I was growing up and I was off of school, well, both my parents were working, so we'd be at my grandparents all the time. And like every morning, it would amaze me, just like the type of work ethic and the type of attitude and energy that he could bring to every day, because he'd be up at 5, 6 in the morning. He's out doing his stuff in his yard. He had this gigantic yard with this huge garage and all that stuff. So he's taking care of his business. By the time I get there, he goes and he'll take us out to breakfast, like me and my little brother. And everywhere we went, it amazed me. Like, he could light up a room wherever he went, making friends wherever he goes. I couldn't even count how many times we would just sit at a random person's table at Tim Hortons or something like that. And just because we met him in line, and my granddad just starts chatting him up, and we sit down, we have breakfast with them, and all of a sudden he has like this whole new friend that he's established, and it really hit me once when I was this is a little bit later down the road, but I remember I was working just during the summers during college at Lowe's, just like a random Lowe's home improvement. And I remember I see him, he's walking into the store, and I was like, oh, hey, like, what's up, blah, blah, blah. And, he just caught me when I was working, and we were chatting for a little bit. And then once he leaves, I have literally like 6 or 7 of my coworkers come up to me. How do you know Willie C? Like, how do you know Willie? Like, I said, I'm like, it's my granddad. Like, what do you mean? So it just like, it amazed me just what the type, like I said, the attitude and the energy and the way he was able to demonstrate just a positive and a unique way of living his life, along with all the success and all the great things that he was able to do at the same time. So that's why, like, I look at that and I just try to hold on to that as much as I possibly can.
Beautiful, man. I really appreciate you, Dion, touching on that. It's always kind of interesting for me to just kind of see how my guests were shaped, or who really impacted them when they were younger, because we all have those influences in terms of adults in our life growing up. So I really appreciate that. Now, you mentioned sports. It sounds like that was a pretty big influence and impact in your life as well. What was school like for you? Were you into school? Were you not into school? Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, no, honestly, I think I have like a different view than most people in my age range. Like, a lot of people I talk to, like, high school, like, I hated it, blah, blah, blah. I honestly, like, when I had a great time, like, just like coming up and everything. And maybe it was just because I was like an athlete and I was able to do all these other sports and everything like that along with school, and it helped me like make a lot of friends. But honestly, like, I had a great time during school. I had, I wasn't the greatest student at first, just because it was more of a lack of discipline than ability, so it was just I remember my freshman year, like, just like wasn't that great. And it was a lot of the function of like some of the people I was hanging around and stuff like that. So once I was able to kind of get that going, I really hit my stride along like the second half of my high school career, and was really able to bump up my GPA average and help me get into college and everything like that. So, but yeah, no, it was amazing. The main subjects I really got into, honestly, my brain just clicks with like math and sciences more. So feel like I'm good with numbers and everything like that. So it's nice, and it kind of transitioned me like the highest I ever went was AP chemistry. That was probably my biggest interest coming out of high school. Yeah.
I needed you in high school, man, to help me with chemistry. That wasn't my thing. I think I got a D- in that, but it was not AP. There was just normal chemistry. Let me make that clear.
Well, I'll tell you one thing. There's only like 6 or 7 of us in the class, so you could best believe there's a ton of students asking us for help.
For sure, man. Yeah.
Oh,
sure.
man.
So now let's I want to ask you, Dion. Most of us growing up, we have some sort of dreams of maybe being a professional athlete, or being a firefighter or police officer or something like that. Now, when you were younger, let's camp out in high school. What were you dreaming of? What were you wanting to do with your life once you graduated high school? And then once you actually graduated, how did life take you? How did life unfold? Just talk to us a little bit about that, please.
I gotcha. Yeah, no, when I was graduating high school, really, I was thinking about, because I was going to, I'd already committed to Edinburgh University to go play college football over there, to play offensive line. So I was thinking there were still those aspirations and the ability of being able to take that step to the next level, possibly, and go to the league, back then. But then realistically, what I was thinking about was more in the chemistry field. And at that time, it was more forensic chemistry. So I was just thinking, okay, I'll start off with my major and then I'll try to, shift into this as I kind of go along my credits. But then once you actually get to college and you have to deal with like all the extra responsibilities that you like don't realize that your parents are taking care of for you, like so that was like the big thing. So honestly, like I struggled. It was kind of like a reset from like how I started in high school too. Like it was like this learning curve of like, okay, like there's a lot more homework that like actually matters. Like, the tests, don't carry you as much. You have to go to practice, film study. You have to go to study halls, for the team and stuff like that, so there was, at first it was a lot, and I was able to do well in my main courses, like my chemistry courses, because like, it was just my knack for it was just kind of like carrying me through it. And then like all my other courses like were falling off just because it was a lot. And it was the same. And to be honest, it was the influence of, hey, I'm 18 years old and I'm on my own. You guys want to go out to a party tonight? Sure. Like, was it like what? Like, so it was like, it was all those things kind of coming up. And like, I remember my first semester, I actually got put onto academic probation just because like, and like my coaches were down my throat. My mom was like threatening to pull me out of school. Like she was not playing. Like that's the one thing you take away. My mom does not play with me. Like so after that, again, it was just like, and it started sooner. So like at the end of that very year, my GPA went up considerably. So it just like it started to ride up, and I actually was able to graduate with a 3.4 GPA. So it was good. So it was so it was just like a slight learning curve and getting used to being on your own and trying to be an adult and carry out all these things and all the time management skills you have to get, and then finally being able to get things together. And college was great, man. It was a wonderful time. It was a lot of great people, and it was just really it was just a lot with I realized how much more football was like a job once you got to the collegiate level, and not so much of like there's still the passion to it and like the love for it, but like I said, there's just way more commitment to it.
For sure. Yeah. And I played a year of D3 football, and I found out pretty quick there's a huge difference, obviously, in terms of competition between high school and college. But then, it's literally a full-time job, and then you have full-time school. And then if you have to work or what have you, I mean, it's definitely a transition, like you said. Now, I saw on your Instagram that you have, you got your bachelor's degree actually in exercise science. Is that correct?
Yeah, so that's a big thing. So because of the early struggles in chemistry, after my first year, I realized that all the other electives that I would have to do along with chemistry to get to where I wanted to go ultimately like wasn't worth it to me. Like it just did not pique my interest in the way where I thought I could get the most out of it. So I decided to go undeclared for a year, and I went undeclared for my whole sophomore year. And I was lucky just because a lot of my science credits would carry over to an exercise science degree. So I just went through with a whole year of just doing general education and just picking out classes that I thought would interest me, just because that was like the main thing I was going through at that time. I'm 19, 20 years old. I just went through like this major shift in my mindset of like, okay, this chemistry thing isn't really exactly what I thought it was. What can I do? What classes can I look at? What can I see that could be interesting? And after that year, it was in between exercise science and anthropology, actually. If you can believe that. Like, I remember I got into this anthropology class and I was fascinated beyond belief. Like, I was just like, this is amazing. Like, I was like, so like with archaeology and everything like that, like, I don't know, I had a tremendous teacher to go along with it. And I feel like that always has something to do with it. Like, even looking back in high school, like I had a tremendous chemistry teacher. So it was, so I feel like it was something like that. But ultimately, I went to exercise science, and I'm happy I did, because that was the one deciding factor, is that I could always see myself being within athletics and within sports, because it's always been something that's so key in my own life. So I always knew that's something I could kind of stick to.
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome, man. Now, what were your thoughts? Because at some point we all kind of realized, or most of us realized, that, hey, I'm not going to be a professional athlete. I've got to actually get maybe a real job, try to figure all that stuff out. Right now, once you're in college, did you kind of get to that point where you realize, like, hey, I'm not going to go to the NFL? And then what were your thoughts then with that bachelor's degree in exercise science? What were you thinking about doing kind of with your life, or what direction did you want to take once you graduated college? Just kind of like the same thing with high school. How did life unfold for you?
Okay. Well, really, the big thing for me was in my sophomore year, honestly. Like, my sophomore year was like a big transitional time in my life, just because I was going there as an offensive lineman. I was about 305 pounds, and I was a 300-pound kid that was dunking a basketball. You know what I'm saying? And like running around playing pickup games and stuff like that. And like my knees were getting destroyed. Like I started to have a lot of severe knee pain in my right knee. It was something that actually flared up at the end of high school, and I actually had to miss the playoffs for basketball, which was terrible. But so I went to my coaches at towards the end of my sophomore year, and I told him what was going on. I was like, I'm having a lot of like knee pain. I'm going to get checked out when I go back home this summer, blah, blah, blah. And I asked them, I said, if this were to come up, if I were to lose weight to help like compensate for this, would I be able to like switch positions, like defensive line or something like that? Because I played defensive line in high school and everything like that. So I was like, it won't be that much of a transition for me. It's just at this point, even as a young kid, I'm trying to look for my health in the future. You know what I'm saying? Because even if I was good enough to make it to the league, you're only going to be in the league for like 10 years anyway, and you got to live your life after that. So, so they were like, pretty much, they were like, okay, let's see how much weight you lose. We know you're offensive lineman. We've seen you eat, Dion. Like, we've seen you on these team trips. We've seen you eat. But so, but then went back home, got checked out, got an MRI. My meniscus was actually thinning out at a pretty dangerous rate. So the doctor told me, he goes, yes, you do have the right idea. You losing weight will probably be the best way for you to alleviate all this and let yourself recover and become healthy. So I was like, okay. So then I came back the very next camp at 245. I lost 60 pounds over the summer. so my coaches were not happy with me. Everyone thought like I had so many double takes. Is that a new recruit? Like, oh, that's Dion. Like, oh man. But no, everything was fine. Like everything turned out fine, just because the knee pain literally disappeared. Like once I was able to get all that extra weight off of me, my body was actually able to function properly. Then the knee pain went away. I was able to finish out, and my last couple of years, I had some time at defensive end and then tight end, just because of like all this extra weight I was, and I was always a pretty good athlete. Like my running became so much better. Like I became so much more of a good runner, and I gained a lot of speed out of it too. So, it was good. So I was able to do what I can for the last little bit, and then was able to finish out, but then graduation was amazing. Graduation was great. Came through, and I was actually dating a girl at the time. We decided to both of us move up to Buffalo because she's originally from Pittsburgh, just to start off, because I already had like a job kind of lined up. And I actually started off at this place called Performance Sports Center, which was a sports-specific training facility for athletes all around the tri-state area. At the time, we were ranked I believe the number 2 training facility in the nation for soccer players. And then I think we were like number 4 on the East Coast for like all athletes or something like that. So John Otfer, if anyone is, he is one of the top biomechanists in the nation. Guy and has a tremendous amount of knowledge, and I've learned a lot from him. So he's a tremendous guy, and he runs the place over there. So he does a wonderful job. But then honestly, like it's kind of weird because I talk about like my childhood and my upbringing. Like it was pretty good. Like, there's some speed bumps, like my parents got divorced, like blah, 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 like puberty, all that crap that you go through. But then like really honestly, like my real struggle started like when I started my adult life, like when I got out of college, just because so going up to Buffalo, before me and Chris even have a chance to move up there, I just dropped her off at work up in down here in Pittsburgh, and I'm driving back up to Buffalo, and I get a phone call that my best friend passed away last night, the night before, and like I'm getting calls from all these people, and it's just like this unreal thing, just because Tyler always struggled with a lot of stuff, but it was like this moment, like where I was coming back home, and like we were always like, me and Tyler and my other best friend Sean, like the 3 of us were like connected at the hip, like throughout high school and stuff like that. And like I said, Tyler had his own struggles, and he was really kind of excited because I was going to help him kind of get rolling back into a good direction. He was looking to get back into hockey and get back in shape, and kind of get his life working back into good directions. And when I got that call, it just like destroyed me. And honestly, I didn't realize until like years later, like how much it affected me in all my actions moving forward. Just because like after that, I come back, I'm dealing with all that. Me and Carissa eventually get up here, and we get into Buffalo. And then because of everything mentally that I was going through, I made like terrible decisions, like just with our relationship, with my own decision making, just because I feel like I hit this point where I lost a sense of compassion for like other people, because I was like in this feeling sorry for myself mindset of like, well, I lost my best friend. How bad could it be for you? They say this guy was like a brother to me. Like, what are you talking about? Like, so I don't know. It's just like I went through that a lot, and I had to lose a lot to realize that it was my own, like I said, mental turmoil that I was going through. I was just doing way too much partying and drinking and everything like that, and it was again a little bit of like a influence of the people I was around in my environment, but also, like I said, my own turmoil I was going through. And then eventually my and now fiance had enough of it, and she packed up and took her shit and came down to Pittsburgh. And then and that was like I like threw all my stuff together. This was like back in what, it was 2016. Yeah. So I got all my stuff together, packed up all my stuff, ran down to Pittsburgh without a plan, nothing, no job, no place to stay. Because I was like, I gotta save this place. I gotta get this woman back. But no, it was but again, I feel like that was really key in being able to give me the separation from all the influences that were around me, because when I came to Pittsburgh, I was on my own. It was just me, I was just able to figure myself out, and figure out my own stuff. And then ultimately things didn't work out with like me and my fiance. That's fine. I hope she's doing well. But that is right around when I got into bodybuilding, and I got into I saw like the classic physique division coming out and everything like that, and I saw these physiques, and I was so interested. I was so interested. I was like, this is so amazing, and with what I was going through, it looked like such a positive, uplifting thing that I could put into my life that could propel me and help me change my life into something better that I wanted, and now even looking back on it, it was really like I needed that discipline. I needed this type of just routine and regimen to help me kind of sift through some of like the mental gymnastics I had to go through to like work out all the past mistakes and all the tragedy and all that stuff, and just kind of move past it and be able to recognize that, okay, I may have made these mistakes, these things may have happened to me or whatever, but this does not define me and who I am. Let your past be your past, and let the rest of your life be the best of your life. It's just it was that type of mindset. And I just remember like all the times, just like going through that first prep and you're doing your like your cardio, because like my first prep was pretty much like right after like the final breakup with me and my fiance. So it was just like, so you're going through like all this and you're just like diving everything you got like into this prep because it's like the only thing that can like keep you going. And like all the times you're like just looking like a damn fool with tears running down my face when I'm running down when I'm running up the stairmaster, getting my cardio done, because I'm battling with like my own self, and I'm trying to build up like this mindset and this mental fortitude to just help me move forward. And it was a tremendous time. And that's why I'm so grateful to bodybuilding, just as a sport and as a discipline, because it helped me. And like I said, it is a positive thing that if you implement the right disciplines, the right regimens into your own life, it can really be a positive thing to take you forward and help you live just like in a better way. I don't want to say the right way, but like a better way.
Man, yeah, couldn't say it better than myself, Dion. Now, let's start transitioning, since you kind of brought us up to bodybuilding. Let's start transitioning into bodybuilding talk. Now, who was it when you first you said in 2016, that's kind of when classic physique just started kind of coming to fruition within the NPC and IFBB. So was Brian kind of one of those guys that you saw initially, or who or what kind of caught your eye initially in terms of bodybuilding?
So I think it may have been like 2017 or something like that when I first like saw Brian, because I believe he competed in the second Olympia like ever. Yeah. But so that was then. And then once we got through that, it was really just kind of gradually learning more about the sport. And then like I said, eventually I was actually working as a general manager at Anytime Fitness, and one of my members actually competed. So I remember I went up to her. She was a bikini competitor, and I was like, "Hey, like, I'm really like I've been learning more and more about this sport. I'm really thinking about trying this out. Like, do you know anyone that can, just help me out, like find a trainer or something like that, like help me get my feet wet, pretty much." And and like I didn't even know like at the time, but she just like straight up gives me Gary Udit's number. So I was just like I had no idea at the time, but like now looking back, I'm like, oh wow, that's a pretty good first connection. But, so I remember I called Gary, and I was just like, hey, like so and so recommended me to you. you know, because she told me, she goes, hey, just tell him I sent you and he'll point you the right direction. So so and so sent me, and I was just looking to get into bodybuilding and look for a trainer and everything like that. And Gary's like, oh, wonderful, blah blah blah. So he got me set up with my first trainer, which was a gentleman named Jason Free, and he is tremendous. Uh, at the time, we were at Extreme Fitness here in Carnegie. Unfortunately, like recently it closed down, and now they've moved over to AmeriFit. But we were up there, and I remember meeting with him for the first time and telling him kind of like what I wanted to do. Like I just wanted to compete and kind of see what's going on with this sport. And I told him my background with my training and everything like that. And I just remember Jason looking at me, being like, you know, all right, are you sure like you're up for this? Because I don't know if he like, because I think he got a sense of my personality. Like, I don't know, this guy seems like a real nice guy. I don't know if I want to put him through this. so so I was like, yes, no, like yes, for sure. And like meanwhile, like I'm like a ex-college football player. I'm still a personal trainer. Like I still work out. Like, and then first workout, like I schedule with them. We go in there, we're gonna do back for the first day. And I go in there and halfway through the workout, he's got me just throwing everything up I got in my system in the garbage cans. And he looks at me and he goes like, hey man, you all right? Like, and I remember I looked at him, and he probably thought I was the craziest mofo in the world, because I looked right at him with like puke all over my mouth, with the biggest smile on my face. I said, thank you so much. I love this. This is exactly what I needed. And like, I remember like, because we scheduled another training session, and and I remember I showed up and he looked surprised, because he's like, honestly, man, I didn't think you were gonna come back. But no, like I said, it was just like it was like this kick in the balls that you needed, where it was just like, why, at least for me, it was like, wow, like yes, this is what I was looking for. This put me the reality check I needed. You know what I'm saying? So it was amazing. So I started with Jason. Jason helped me out, just getting me going for like my first couple shows that I did. And it was really more of just like the training aspect. He would give me a little bit of advice when it came to the food. But like the excuse me, the food was pretty much like, I kind of did that on my own, just kind of trying to figure it out. And like my first show, I competed at the Big Cat Classic in Allentown with Iron Sharpens Iron. Awesome production company if any NPC competitors are looking for shows out there. And I got third place in my class, and I think I placed like second in the novice or something like that. But it was the experience. Like I remember, like, because I had no idea. And you know, so, and I thought it was gonna be like, you know, tooth and nail, like everyone's gonna be like, you know, super competitive and like everything. But like I go backstage, and like I don't know what it was, but like everyone was in the greatest mood of their life. And like it was just like, I met so many tremendous people there. Like everyone was just like, man, you look fantastic, man. Like, oh man, where are you going to eat after this, man? It's like because we're at the, and it like clicks for me. It's like, yo, we're at the finish line. Like, you know, like why wouldn't you be happy right now? Like it's like whatever happens on stage happens on stage. Just have a good time. Like you went through all this dieting, all this cardio, all this training, you know, and it's like it just clicked for me, and it was so tremendous. Like the whole experience from top to bottom, being out on stage, even though I was like crazy nervous, being my first time being out on stage, but it was just amazing, you know. And I didn't even care about my placings, just because I had such a good time at the event. So and then took a break and tried to do a little bit of like a off season and stuff like that, and did the Lehigh Valley Classic the next year in 2019. And then I got second in my class And I was a little bit more irritated with that one because I knew a little bit more about the sport and everything. So, I was a little bit more agitated about that one. But then ultimately then like COVID and everything happened, and like it was like a battle to like get through, because like I was so determined to compete in 2020. I over dieted so hard going into this show. I forget what show it was because I like blanked it on my mind. It was like but it was like September of like 2020, something like that. But then after that, I remember I was competing against another IFBB pro, a guy that was going to be pro the following week, Dan Costa. So he was there. I remember I competed against him, and like, seeing like a pro physique up close, because like I said, the very next week he went out and he won his pro card. So being able to see a pro physique up close like that, I was like, wow, okay. And then I remember coming out after the show, and my mom looks at me, and I get 100% of my competitive edge from my mother. To say like my mom is a British woman who grew up in the 80s, who was good enough at soccer to play on the boys varsity team, and did. Like, so I get all of my competitive edge from her. So I come out and she sees me and she goes, "You gotta get bigger, man." Like, and ultimately that's like when I got connected with Morgan and everything like that, and that kind of brought us up to that point.
Yeah. No, I love that. Now, let's talk about Coach Morgan Rice, because I've had several of his IFBB pros on the podcast. I've had some great conversation with him just through Instagram. Seems like a really awesome guy. I actually reached out to him originally, and I asked him to be on the podcast. He's like, "Hey man," he's like, "I'm just going to be real with you." He's like, "That's not really my thing," but he said, "I would much rather have my athletes go on. I want to see them, promoted. I want to see them, kind of sharing their life story and stuff. And I just kind of like to be behind the scenes." He was like really real with me, open. I was like, "Hey man, much respect." And I've brought that up to a couple of the other guys that are coached by him, and they're like, "Yep, that's Coach Morgan exactly." So I love that, and I follow him on Instagram, Coach Morgan, and see his stories. Looks like he does some sort of house flipping. He's just kind of like a down and dirty, gritty type of a person. So tell me about how you got connected with Coach Morgan, and how has he kind of taken your physique and your bodybuilding career kind of to another level, so to speak.
No, you described Morgan great. Like, he is I love the guy, like, honestly, to death, because he is he's like no nonsense, and like he has like this like outer shell, but you can tell, like, when you start working with him and you get to know him a little better, you can tell he has the biggest heart in the world. He's such a genuine dude. Like, that's why I say I love Morgan. But at the same time, man, he expects you to perform. He expects you to get the job done. And if you're not, he's going to tell you. So, and that's another reason why I love him, because I've been coached hard my entire life by all my coaches, because all of them looked at me and they said, "Hey man, you have potential. So like, I got to be hard on you." So I love it. But Morgan originally, after that contest, I was talking to a couple other NPC guys that I knew. I was really looking to get with a real coach, like, after that, to like really help guide me and just be that second pair of eyes, because like I feel like sometimes I feel like when you're starting out, like, as like a younger guy in the sport, like, you don't realize like how valuable a second pair of eyes that knows what they're looking at is, so I contacted a couple other guys that I knew were being coached by him, and I just asked them. I was like, "Hey, like, how's Morgan? Like, how is he coached? Like, do you enjoy your time with him? Blah blah blah." Just because I wanted to look for someone local, just so if any case, like, if I wanted to go see him in person, I could always do that, and the both people that I talked to had like the just glowing reviews, nothing but good things to say about him. So I decided to pull the trigger. I just did the same thing. I messaged him on Instagram, was just like, hey, like, I'm an NPC bodybuilder. I'm looking to get into bodybuilding and everything like that, and really take it seriously and go to the next level. And I remember, like, after that, he sends me this email with like this big questionnaire and stuff like that, and I was like, oh sweet, like this is it, like this is it. And like, even when I was like describing it to like my mom and my parents, just because like my mom's, my one of my biggest supporters, obviously, so I keep her in the loop on all this stuff. So when I showed her the questionnaire, she's like, oh yeah, go with this guy. Like, she's like, for sure. And it's so funny just because, like, Morgan like posted some of my questionnaire, like after the win for like the pro card. And he goes like, I go, yeah, I just wanted to add like 3 to 5 pounds of like good muscle, see what I can do. And like, once Morgan set out the plan, and we went on a full off-season regimen from that point in November of 2020 all the way through until pretty much this first week of January this year. And we put on 30 pounds of muscle. So that's why he just posted that, because he's just laughing, because he's like, oh yeah, 3 to 5 pounds, buddy. Like, so yeah, that's why I say like he is tremendous. Like, he knows absolutely what he's doing. And here's the big difference that I can say between Morgan and just, I don't have any other experience with other coaches really, but what I've heard just from other people, like, Morgan can always give you a dead set explanation for why he's having you do something. And that is so important, because if your coach is telling you to, run this stack or do whatever or anything like that, he can't tell you why. Like, what kind of trust can you put in that? So yeah, so he is absolutely amazing. We've done there's been nothing but improvement going up through all this. Yeah, like I said, we went from, what was it? I started at about like 210, like when I was like post show, and I came off of that last show, and we ended our off season at like 262. Yeah. Yeah. So it was amazing, man. Like, and I loved it throughout the whole process.
Now, I want to, before we kind of get into you earning your IFBB Pro Card, let's talk about training a little bit, because I'm sure I see through Morgan's Instagram and some of his IFBB pros, their training style. It looks nitty gritty. It's heavy. It's progressive. It's balls to the wall, so to speak, right?
Yes,
did
sir.
he really help you take your training to another level and really get you to that bodybuilding training to kind of put on that 30 pounds? And if so, talk about how your training changed with Morgan, and how do you kind of train currently, please?
Oh yeah. So the training was huge when we first started, because I remember I made sure that I went and I trained with him early, just to get a sense of like what he wanted. So I forget what we trained. I think we did like shoulders or something like that. But I after that first workout, it was like another like almost vomit inducing experience. But I was able to make it through that one without throwing up. But after that, I was like, okay, this is the gauge I need to make sure I always hit. Like this, I need to keep this up. And like you said, it's very nitty gritty. It's very balls to the wall. It's like you got to be able to go, So a lot of good big compound movements. He likes to shift between different intensifiers, whether it's rest pauses or drop sets or anything like that. And really it's a lot of just, hey man, we got to load that bar up. We got to see what we can do with perfect form, and then we'll do a nice pump set afterwards, make you feel good, and we'll move on to the next thing. But the biggest thing is just, for me, is just like making sure rest times are on point and everything, so we keep the intensity of the workout at the right pace. And really just for me, like I have no problem like really getting down to it with all the hardcore movements when it comes to like rack pulls and deadlifts and heavy presses and everything like that. It's just always for me, I always just got to make sure like mentally I'm ready. Like I got to be ready to roll, you know, because it's just a different mindset to be able to get that rolling, you know. Yeah, so that really helped me move to the next level. And it was pretty much just like a pro split. You know, we're going to be doing chest, you know, chest shoulder kind of press focus one day, back. Then we're going to be doing some sort of rest day probably in between that, because we have most of our big compound movements in that chest and back day in the beginning of the week. And then usually throughout the rest of the week, we'll do probably shoulders as a priority with like sprinkled in a little bit of chest, you know, and then arms and legs. And the only difference really between our weekly splits is whether we'll do an arm day or we won't do an arm day. So on days where we have, or on weeks, I should say, where we have only 4 days of training, where we're taking out that arm day, we just sprinkle it in on like the back and chest day, just kind of get a couple sets in, make sure it's still there a little bit. But it's really just making sure we can prioritize that rest right now, well, at least right now, because we're trying to build ourselves back up into a good off-season weight and everything like that and get that going.
Awesome. All right. So to kind of close out our conversation today, Dion, let's get into the Pittsburgh Pro this year. How did you and Morgan kind of determine that's where you guys were going to compete in 2022? Let's talk about the results, because it went very well. And then I believe you said after that you went to junior nationals. Just what was that, last weekend or 2 weekends ago? Or
yes, they just a couple weekends ago down in South Carolina in Charleston.
Perfect. So talk about the Pittsburgh Pro, talk about that experience, and then talk about junior nats, and then we'll kind of we'll start wrapping things up.
Fantastic. Yeah, no, the Pittsburgh Pro was a lot of fun. The prep leading up to it was a really good start. And then we had a little bit of a challenge at about like 5 weeks out. We had like a little bit of a snag where my body, I put on probably 35 pounds of water weight in about 2 weeks. So yeah, no, it was crazy. There was something going on with my stack. We had to like change everything up because, like I said, I literally went from dieting down into like the high 230s, and then all of a sudden within 2 weeks I'm 262 pounds again. And like it's like I said, it was like the weirdest looking thing in the world, man. Like everything else on my body looks lean, like we're actually prepping for a show, and then my whole like that donut around your midsection, nothing but just like water and just like flubber. It looked ridiculous. But like so we had to like really change a lot of things up, and we had to, and honestly this is why I tell, like, Morgan is a genius, because we were able to switch everything up and we got that water off in a week. Like it was ridiculous. And I was immediately back down to like 235, you know, so it didn't ruin the prep at all, anything like that. And then we were able to roll into the Pittsburgh, and honestly, it was always our goal. It was always our goal to go into the Pittsburgh and win it. The one thing that I really love about Morgan is that he, like, I don't know if he knows it or not, but he feeds into my mindset so much, because like I don't like to like bloviate about myself, but like I have tremendous confidence in what I'm able to achieve and what I'm able to do. And like he feeds in that so much, like just with little comments, and I don't even think he knows it, because I remember we were working out the one time, and he goes, "Yeah, man, we're gonna go to Pittsburgh." He said, "We're gonna win it. We're gonna go to nationals, one of these next shows." And I remember, and even after everything happened with like the whole water situation, everything like that. He goes, we're gonna walk in there like we own the damn place. And and like in my head, I'm like, yeah, like it's like because like that's already what I'm thinking. And he's just like, boom, like he's right there with me, you know. So yeah, so we that was always the plan. So we went in there, we did our thing, we made sure everything was just tip top. And we went out and we performed, and it was fantastic, and I had a tremendous time on stage, you know. Like now it's just like now it's nothing but fun for me on stage. Like, and you know, you can even tell, like even like the following weekend when we went to nationals, you know, more, and I was so grateful that Morgan came down and was with me for that whole experience. So grateful for him for that, to spend the money to be able to come with me and do that. But it was the same thing, man. We were in the hotel room, we're checking things out, and you know, and you know me, I'm like, I try to be punctual with everything. You know, I try to be punctual with everything. So I'm like, okay, like, you know, we gotta go down for like 10, and like there's a meeting this time. And he looks at me, he goes, man, put that list down. We're gonna walk down there like we own the place, and you're gonna get that pro card. So I was like, after that, I just threw my hands up and I was like, okay, boss, you just tell me where to go. You know, so yeah, no, so it was when we were down in Charleston, it was great. It was awesome just because it was just a little bit more time for me and Morgan to spend one-on-one together. And yeah, no, we went down. Again, I was able to meet like so many tremendous people down there. And it was just like, it was something else. And I love how you can feel like the competitiveness go up, like as the levels go up, because like compared to like the Big Cat Classic that I told you about, like the first show I did, like everyone's super excited, everyone's happy, blah blah blah, everyone's talking and chatting and stuff like that. You know, nationals, like everyone's just focus, chill, and it's like and like for me, I don't know, like I'm still the same person. So like it's hilarious because honestly, the guy who got second place to me, Kenny Richards, he's an awesome guy. Me and him hit it off like really good backstage because he comes up to me and he goes, hey, what's your name, man? Like blah blah blah. And he goes, you're the only person that like from the jump, like at registration, just like walks up to me. He's like with a big smile, like, what's up, man? How you doing? Like he goes, because like everyone else is just like all in their own head and everything like that, and it's just, he goes, man, and he goes, you're the only one that I see is actually having a good time. And you know, and even on stage you can see it. Like I could tell. Oh my god, I always forget her last name. What that one of the head judges there, Sandy, she's an Olympia judge. But I could tell, like when we were going through stuff, like I had the biggest smile on my face, like I'm smirking and sticking my tongue out and shit like that. And she keeps pointing at me because all you can see up there with those lights is the judges, because the lights are so bright you can't see anything else. All you can see is the judges. And I just loved it because she, every time we transition to a new pose, she's like pointing at me. She's like, oh, this dude's having the time of his life. Like and yeah, we did, man. And we went out there and we performed and we did it, man. We did it. You know, it was a lot of work coming, and I am just so grateful for everything that I've been able to accomplish and everything that started to come out of it. The opportunity to come onto your podcast and be able to present myself, and you know, all the other great feedback and all the other people that have been in contact with me, whether it's other pros or people that do like video and photography or anything like that. Like it's just been tremendous. So I'm really just trying to, you know, take things one day at a time and try to roll forward so I can make a name for myself in this sport.
That's right, man. And you know, you have a great opportunity. It's like I like to share with some of the IFBB pros that come on, because sometimes I don't think all of the IFBB pros realize the platform that they have. I mean, because a lot of the guys are, I mean, there's some arrogant individuals out there, but there's a lot of IFBB pros that are really humble. They're very meek. A lot of them are quiet. They're kind of introverted. And I think some of them don't realize, like, as soon as you get the title IFBB Pro, whether it's a women's division or men's division, whether it's classic physique or men's physique or 212 or open, like you automatically, when you have that IFBB Pro in front of your name, you automatically, whether you want it or not, whether you realize it or not, you have a platform. And there's a lot of people, just because it says IFBB Pro Dion, like you have a platform and you can use that in a very powerful way to help a lot of people, bring a lot of positivity. And I just don't think, because I've had hundreds of these conversations with IFBB pros now, I know that a lot of them, or some of them, they just don't realize that platform. And that's okay. Maybe it's just not their personality, it's not their thing, but man, like you have such a huge platform now that a lot of people don't have and never will have. So to kind of wrap everything up, Dion, that kind of leads me into the question, where do you want to take this bodybuilding thing? What's your ultimate goal? What do you want to do besides just making a name for yourself? I believe you have a very great personality. I'm sure you really do want to impact people's lives. So talk about the ultimate bodybuilding goal and what the ultimate kind of future is in terms of what you want to do with being an IFBB Pro now and forever. It's something that will never be taken from you.
So the biggest thing for me, like I'll do competitive wise second. The biggest thing for me is I remember when it was extremely powerful for me when I was at my grandfather's funeral, and the reverend there, he knew my grandfather very well, and he spoke about my grandfather, and I agreed with everything he said, that he always led by example. He didn't do a lot of talking. You could never get my granddad to do a lot of talking or bragging or nothing like that. But the way he lived his life and the way and the words that he resonated on was demonstrating. Just going forth and demonstrating the right way to do things, in any part of your life. So if I could, one thing that I really want to do with this platform is, really be able to show, honestly, I feel like it's more younger people that being able to demonstrate for them the proper way to do things, a good way to live your life, a way to enjoy yourself and be happy, and that's really why I want to carry through for it. Because honestly, if you were to like be a fly on the wall at my gym, like whenever there's younger guys that come up to me that are just getting into bodybuilding, I'm like, here, man, let's go in the studio. Let's see what you know about the mandatories. Let's run you through some stuff. I get like, that lights me up, to be able to help out like just the younger generation. And whether it's, females or males or whatever it is, I just want to really be a positive outlet for people to be an example of like, this can be a tremendously positive thing for anyone's life. And Dion's just out there demonstrating exactly what that looks like.
Yeah. And then just share with us what your ultimate bodybuilding goal is in terms of being a competitor.
So honestly, competitive wise is number one. I'll say it right here, right now. Say number one in the classic physique division. I'm going for that Olympia title. And there's nothing else. So, and I'm not backing down from that. So
perfect.
I say, that's it. So me and Morgan, we already know what the plan is. So, it's gonna be, we're gonna probably bring it full circle to the Pittsburgh Pro next year. Try and get our first pro win right there. And then, we'll take it to the O and start rolling through heads there.
Love it, man. I love it. I love it. I love it. So, before I close out with the outro, Dion, why don't you share any final thoughts, any final words that you might have for all of us? Any shout outs, any sponsors, where people can find you on Instagram, anything that you kind of want to share in closing. The platform is yours, and then I'll do the outro and that'll be a wrap.
Fantastic. Well, just want to say thank you so much again, Quentin. Thank you so much for the opportunity to be able to just come out and, like I said, just be able to display myself and showcase myself a little bit. honestly, like you guys can find me on Instagram on Dion_Lamar, Dion_LAMAR. And then, you'll see me, IFBB Pro, I am going to be doing a lot of work. I've been doing a lot with trying to get some better equipment for content creation and everything like that. So there's a lot of things going on behind the scenes. If I were to show you the rest of my apartment right now, it's a disaster because of all this new stuff. So I'm trying to be better with that because I know it is a big part. So look out for some new videos that come out, a YouTube channel, stuff like that, just to kind of try and carry things forward. And just like you said, try to use this platform for as many good things as we can and to put as much good information and good energy out there.
Perfect, man. And I just want to say you're very welcome. You thanked me, and I want to thank you, Dion, for taking some time out of your Monday to kind of just have an awesome conversation with me, share your story. That's why I love these conversations, this podcast, because it's like, man, there's so much going on behind the muscle. There's a story behind the muscle, and there's so much more than just what we see on stage and on Instagram, right? So
that's right.
Thank you very much. Okay, Dion?
No, it is no problem. And hey, anytime you want to have another conversation, I'm all for it, man.
Very cool. Absolutely. So all of you who are tuning in to another episode of Behind the Muscle podcast, I just want to say thank you to you. If it wasn't for all of you, the podcast wouldn't exist. I greatly appreciate all of your guys' support, whether that's through YouTube or iTunes or on Instagram. Thank you so much. A couple quick things as we wrap up this conversation today with Dion. If you haven't done so already, please hit that subscribe button on YouTube. If you are not listening to the podcast on YouTube, please go to YouTube, hit that subscribe button. That's really important because I release all of these episodes first on YouTube, and then I'll distribute them to iTunes and all the other podcast platforms. Another favor I'd ask of all of you is if you would please take this episode with Dion, share it on your Instagram stories. Make sure you tag Dion, tag Behind the Muscle. Also, why don't you tag Coach Morgan? Because at some point, I would love to get Coach Morgan Rice on the podcast and kind of pick his brain on some things. But tag all
I'll help you out
three.
with that too.
Yeah, for sure. Tag all three of us as you share this on your Instagram stories. That's just a great way for more people to find the podcast. More people are going to listen to the podcast, and more people are going to be positively impacted through these athlete stories that they are sharing on the podcast. And then finally, I will leave you all with this. Remember, behind the muscle, there's always a story. We'll catch you guys later.